Don't you hate feeling bored with all the music on your stand? Well, luckily, you never have to feel that way again. JDW Sheet Music offers a wide variety of chamber music pieces for wind players of all ages. Their catalog includes duets, trios, quintets, and even double reed choir pieces for beginner, intermediate, and advanced players. Each of the pieces on the site will include sample pages, audio excerpts, and short descriptions. JDW Sheet Music has also made it possible to access the music sooner through the new Digital Download Only feature. Pieces that are marked Digital Download Only will be made available immediately after purchase. To learn more about JDW Sheet Music, please visit www.jdwsheetmusic.com.
If you're anything like me, sharpening your reed knife is one task that you definitely do not look forward to. But good news, since day one, Genda reed knives have been the highest quality and sharpest reed knives on the market, and Genda Industries has been a driving force in educating double reed players on how to sharpen and maintain their reed knives. It is the single most important tool in our reed making kit, after all. Now Genda has launched a full line of sharpening equipment to meet our sharpening needs. They're offering a wide variety of full-size and travel sharpening stones, strops, and compounds that can be used in the studio, in the music hall, or on the go, and will make your sharpening life better. You've got a good reed knife. Now it's time to start using good sharpening equipment. Add the code DRDGENDA, all capitals, no spaces, at checkout and get 10% off any Genda reed knife, maintenance kit, reed knife sharpening book, cutting block, and reed tool roll. Visit them at gendaindustries.com, and don't forget, they are much more than just reed knives.
Hi, I'm Galit Kaunitz.
And I'm Jackie Wilson, and you're listening to Double Reed Dish,
a podcast for oboists,
bassoonists,
and the people who love them.
Okay, so we're talking about our reed disasters today.
Yeah, and we had a couple people say they feel like every day is a reed disaster, and I can definitely, co-sign on that.
Can I tell you about my reed disaster?
Of course.
This is going to be therapeutic because I actually still feel a little bit of shame about this. So I was a passenger in a carpool going to Birmingham on a gig, and I was driving with this bassoon friend of mine, and she had her, I don't know how you guys do it, but do you dry your unfinished reeds on a drying rack?
Yeah.
She had her drying rack.
You all the bassoon listeners laughing at you right now. It's called a drying rack, yes.
You know, that thing. So she had it in between the driver's seat and the passenger seat, and I was like, okay, don't drop anything on it. That seems dangerous. So we were doing pretty good. We were probably 3 hours into it, and then, of course, I'm trying to multitask. I'm holding my phone and trying to change the volume on the radio, and I dropped it. I dropped my phone onto her reed rack. Killed 3 or 4 reeds, and I just want to say publicly I'm still very sorry.
And she jumped across the car and began attacking you.
No, it was mostly just a defeated sigh. She was really nice about it. I felt really bad about it. She was really nice. I still feel really bad about it.
That's pretty tragic.
It was so tragic, and it was 1,000% my fault. What is your reed disaster?
My reed disaster is actually not a personal reed disaster. It's more one I observed. And it was actually fairly recent. I was doing a school visit to a regional middle school in Missouri, and I was working with this student who was just brand new to the bassoon. It was like first semester beginning band, and she was playing, and I was looking, and her reed had some dark spots on it, and I went, oh, okay, let's talk about how we maintain our reeds and how we store our reeds and what are healthy habits. And because you see, you have just a little bit of mold here on this reed, so we don't want to put that in our mouth. We want to throw it away when they start to spot like that, or if they smell funky. Probably means we need to change a couple things and definitely replace the reed. And she goes, well, this is the best one I have. And I said, well, it plays the best? And she goes, it has the least mold.
No.
And I went, okay. And she goes, do you want to see?
No.
And I went, okay. She hands me her reed case.
No.
And I open it up. And inside were 2 reeds that were so molded over, they had begun to grow white fur. I am not joking. I am not exaggerating. I'd never seen anything like it before in my life.
Did you direct her to the emergency room?
Well, I did. I was like, do you put these in your mouth? And she's like, well, not when they get like that. And I was like, okay, good. Great. And, you don't want to make her, feel bad, oh, the side of your reeds makes me want to gag. But real talk, the side of her reeds made me want to gag. And I showed her band director, and he thought it was, the most hilarious thing. He was like, we should post about this on Facebook. I was like, this is not good PR. We are not posting about this on Facebook, but I am glad you have a good spirit about it. So that was a new one for me. I'd never seen it quite that bad. I was like, okay, well, live and learn.
At that point, you want to, send her to a specialist, make sure there's nothing in her lungs.
It was bad. It was pretty bad.
Well, our listeners sent in some equally terrible gems.
I know. I loved it. There was no shortage of reed disasters for this time. Why don't you start?
Okay. So this entry is from Andrea. I'm just going to read it. It's really good. We were playing Traveler by Moussaka when I was in grad school, and I didn't realize it, but my reed cracked about halfway through. I realized the tragedy immediately before the excruciatingly long oboe solo toward the end, as I had been flat and didn't have a chance to look at my reed. Since this was a showcase recital involving several university music groups, I was only playing one piece, so of course I didn't bring a spare reed. Smack my head emoji. Well, I had to lip up the entire solo, and my face was burning when I was done. Cry face. The weird thing, it was apparently the best I had played the solo, according to my band director.
Oh, no.
Just to say, I was on the edge of my chair the whole time.
She should have done, that video that went viral a couple months ago where he cracks the reed and then he grabs the second, or oboe's reed and give me that reed. That's what she should have done. Give me your oboe.
You know what really screams beautiful playing? Just clenched, tight body language.
I thought you were going to say butt cheeks.
Whenever I get compliments like that, I'm like, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a compliment or what. I've gotten many in my life where, something disastrous happens and someone's like, wow, that was the best I've ever heard you. And you're like, Oh, Andrea, I feel your pain. I bleed for you.
Well, we had a couple dogs want to get in on the reed game. Apparently they are just delicious little morsels of goodness.
Get out of here, dogs.
We have Caitlin, who says, my Cocker Spaniel literally ate 2 of my best reeds right before a huge gig. I pulled the mangled gold Leray staples from her jaws. Cry emoji, frustrated emoji.
Expensive.
And Amanda says, my dog Liesel ate my reeds before an FSU ensemble placement audition. I had to call Dr. Olson and literally say, my dog ate my reeds.
You know, I was in school with Amanda when that happened. And that's literally how it happened.
That's awesome.
He also did the literal, like, smack my head emoji, but in real life.
I can't play today. My dog ate my reeds. I love it.
Okay, this is from Kayla. In my first year of playing, 9th grade, 14 years old, I didn't have a proper reed case, and I kept my reeds in plastic tubes that I bought them in. My high school band was setting up for playing in a festival, and I was putting my bassoon together when I realized I seemed to have lost my only good reed. Could not find it anywhere. So I played on an oldie moldy. Needless to say, the
hopefully no fur was involved.
The concert didn't go well. I swabbed my bassoon out afterward, and my reed fell out of my boot joint. The way my case is set up and my bassoon sat, a Fox 220, one of the holes is open, and I guess while I was walking, my reed made its way into the bassoon. After that, I brought a proper reed case.
That's amazing. My reed fell into my bassoon.
So I lost my reed. It was in my bassoon.
That's another one we should do sometimes. Things found in one's boot joint. I bet there's just amazing stories about all the goodies we can find down there.
Wedding rings.
All right. My next one, Daniela says, sorry, I'm scrolling. I once got in trouble for smoking in the hallway at school. I was on my way to get water to soak reeds, and the thing they thought was smoking was an oboe reed I had in my mouth.
You know, once I got in trouble, they probably don't give out pink slips anymore in high school, but I got a pink slip for eating an apple in the hallway between classes.
Oh my gosh.
So rude.
They hate fiber and nutrition.
I know, Daniela, you're such a bigger rebel than I was.
Smoking in the hallway with your oboe reeds.
With your oboe reeds. Dangerous.
Yeah.
Very dangerous. Okay, so this one from Jeffrey is so amazing. A friend and I were playing in a massed orchestral event when we were teenagers. A little boy sitting in front of us was playing the recorder. My friend said something uncomplimentary about the little boy's playing. The kid waited until my friend was playing his part, turned around, and pushed the bell of the oboe up with his hand. The reed went into my friend's palate, resulting in a very sore mouth and smashed reed.
That's like evil.
That's like a young psychopath.
For real. I was like, that's almost like not funny. It's not funny, actually. I'm just going to go on the record and say I don't think it's funny to put a bell into a mouth.
Is in the 1% of the population that are true psychopaths.
His name was Damien. John Walsh is on the hunt for him now. Oh my gosh.
Scary.
My poor friend.
A vengeful child.
Bad. That could, be really bad.
That could be really bad. Please don't do that.
Like I clenched in sympathy pain as you were reading. Oh. Okay, Rachel says, a pupil turned up to their first lesson. I opened the reed box to find 3 lovely brand new reeds. The only problem was there was sticky tape around the blades of each one. I was then handed a note from the student, from the mom, to say that she saw the gaps down the side and thought the reeds were broken, so she stuck them back together with tape. Had to explain that she now needed to buy 3 more reeds and leave them alone as she had, in fact, broken them all.
Oh.
Moms, stay out of it.
Also, dads, stay out of it. I've had way too many curious dads saying, what are you doing there? You making that? I could do that, right? I could do that. Or, looking very, very, too curiously at the oboe itself. It's step away. Don't touch anything.
Well, and I feel like the motto for all double reed parents should be, I just bought you a reed.
Why? I don't get it.
Because they're so expensive. I feel like all my parents are always
yes.
I just bought you one 2 months ago. I just bought you one. It's like, we need more than one, and can we have a more working definition of the word just?
Yes!
I just bought you one.
You know how we're always in the market for good quality handmade reeds? Well, MKL is the one-stop shop for handmade oboe reeds where you can try reeds from various makers and select the one that is best for you. Visit mklreeds.com and enter coupon code DOUBLEREEDDISH, 3 separate words, all caps, for free shipping on your first order.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Double or Nothing Reeds. You know them. They're the company that's dedicated to providing excellent handmade oboe and bassoon reeds to discriminating double reed players of all ages and abilities. And good news, Double or Nothing Reeds has recently expanded to sell double reed tools and supplies, gift items, and more. This includes knives, knife blades, thread, staples, cane, bags, and resources for students. Better yet, as authorized Fox and Yamaha dealers, they offer an extensive range of oboes and bassoons for all levels. Additionally, they sell quality used instruments on consignment. And if you're looking for private oboe lessons and can't find anyone nearby, Double or Nothing Reeds offers oboe lessons via Skype. Visit their website, doubleornothingreeds.com, for good quality and affordable reed making supplies and resources, lessons, instruments, and much more.
We are so excited to welcome to Double Reed Dish Ramón Ortega Quero, principal oboe of the Bavarian Radio Symphony Orchestra and soon-to-be principal oboe of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Could we start off by having you tell us about how you started to play the oboe?
Yes, well, in my family there is music. My father is a pianist. He's retired now. He was a teacher at the Granada Conservatory. And I have also a 2-year older sister. So as kids, we were always surrounded by music, either recordings at home or my father took us to the conservatory orchestra rehearsals, which he was conducting sometimes. And yes, there was a piano at home as well, so we loved to play it just for fun. And yes, then in Spain you usually start by the age of 8, the conservatory studies. And by that time I was loving playing the piano, and I just wanted to play the songs that my sister was already able to play much better than me, but I was by myself practicing and wanting to play them. And yes, I think my father already saw that there is little conflict about who wants to play the piano. I wanted to play, and my sister too, because she was already taking lessons. So yeah, he suggested me the oboe. I think because his best friend at the conservatory was the oboe teacher, who was called Miguel Quiros. And yeah, I mean, he knew him very well, and he knew he was a really good teacher and brilliant oboist. So he thought, why not to try? So we tried it this way, and it went very, very, very good from the beginning.
Would you talk about your educational and training journey and how you got to where you are today?
Mm-hmm. So, yes, I started studying at the Granada Conservatory, first with Miguel Quiros, this teacher I mentioned, for 5 years until he retired. He was already quite old, like about 60. When I started with him, and until he retired. And then by the age of 13, I was 2 years changing teachers. There was every time a new teacher in Granada, but I was never so happy with the people coming. And then by the age of 15, in 2003, came this project by Daniel Barenboim, West Eastern Divan Orchestra, to Andalusia, to the region where I was living. And it was a big thing. It was a big issue that, of course, Barenboim was coming and taking the orchestra there, and there was an agreement that some local musicians could audition for it and take part on the orchestra tours and rehearsals. So I did audition and luckily got accepted in 2003. And in that orchestra was coaching the winds Gregor Witt, which is the Staatskapelle Berlin solo oboe. And yes, that's how I met my future teacher. And I remember also Barenboim told me, yes, you should go study with Gregor. He's really great oboist and musician, and he can help you. So that's how I started studying with Gregor, and I continued for 4 years. At first in Spain, there was an academy in Sevilla created by that time, and he would come once a month, like for a long weekend, so 3-4 days. And we would have kind of intense workshops. And then the last year and a half, 2 years, I was already going to Berlin every up and now, having lessons. And yeah, the last year was 2007, then I moved to Germany and studied with him there.
Can you talk to us about your experiences and journey embarking on your professional career?
Yes, well, at that time, also when I moved to Germany, I planned to continue studying, normally in Germany for a few years, I thought, at least. But very soon, I mean, Gregor Witt, my teacher, was always believing that I should take part on competitions, I mean, national or international competitions. So I remember already in that year, in 2007, I played for a competition in Hanover, which was like, so to say, regional competition of the Hochschules, like the schools, the high schools of music in the north of Germany. And it went very well, and I won the first prize in this competition. And then 3 months after, in September, was the IRD international competition in Munich, and I got accepted. You have to send a recording for it. And yeah, I took part on this competition without any expectation, but it turned out that I won the first prize, which was really amazing experience, and this really turned my life from one day to the other. So I started receiving invitations for playing as a solist, and also for substituting in German orchestras, among others the Bavarian Radio Symphony Orchestra, which was having a free principal oboe place at that time. And then only 5 months after this, there was the audition, and I won it. So I really remember this IRD competition week as really a changing life experience.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how I became a professional. Yes. With 19-year-old, it was definitely very early, but somehow it went the right way for me, because you also experience the most, I would say. So I remember I continued only half a year studying with Gregor after that, and then I had to move to Munich, and we couldn't meet so regularly because I was very, very busy. So, but yeah, I started working on my own, and yeah, somehow I made it through.
It sounds like you were a very driven young person. And I'd be curious about your practice habits and how you saw your career when you were a student.
Well, I have to say I was very lucky with my first teacher because, among other things, I mean, he helped me a lot with reeds. He gave me very, very light reeds at the beginning, which didn't probably sound the nicest, but it gave me this, feeling of that oboe is not such a hard instrument as when you play a bit harder reeds that later on I would, of course, take. But this I consider to be very important because, say, 8, 9, 10-year-old, you just want to play and have fun somehow, not to struggle with such a hard instrument as the oboe could be, So this was very, very important. And he also kind of, he was adapting his method to each student, which I think it was very important for me because in my case I was always very quick, very going forward, and I remember after a few months I already finished the program for the year, so he wouldn't have a problem with that. He would always go on and give me new repertoire, and you know what I mean, not getting stuck on, no, you have to do this more perfectly, and he was somehow very easygoing on this way, and just, okay, he's able to play this. Of course, you always can play better, but he would give me the feeling it's fine and we can go on. And I think this was very, very important for me as a 8, 9, 10-year-old because I had the impression that music was fun and really something you can enjoy, and later when you get more mature and older you can, of course, you have to start working on perfection and getting things, well played and nicely done. But I think it's also very important to get this flowing, this easiness and this carefree somehow fun that the music also gives us. So,
do you think that your attitude about being excited about pursuing music and eager to take on the next thing, do you think that was important in navigating this sudden change from student life and then winning the competition and then all of a sudden you're quite busy professional? Do you think that was helpful to you in that transition?
Yes, and actually it turned out to be, I think, the right way for me. Of course, when you are young, you dream, you have dreams, and you think, oh, I would love playing one day as a solo oboe in this or this orchestra, or just a good orchestra, whatever. So, and when I went to the competition, I didn't expect at all to make it even to the finals or even the semifinals, because that's one of the most important competitions we have in Europe. And if you see the list of winners, they are all amazing oboists. And yes, you are just very honored to be able to take part on the first round. And actually, that's what my teacher told me. I remember on the lessons we had before. So I went there without any expectation, but then, round by round, you pass, and then you look around and you see, well, you think maybe I could make it to the next round or to the final even, and then maybe some prize. You never really expect the first prize, but it turned out this way, and I think somehow I was ready because my personality is a bit like this. I need to be challenged. I remember Gregor told me this very often, like I always need a challenge in order to motivate myself and to get up, and actually in this sense it was really perfect to just throw me out there in the world and now you have to play. But I was very, very self-confident somehow and believed very much that I could do it. I of course, went step by step, concert by concert. Now I have to play Mozart, now Martinu, now Strauss, and now this audition. And yeah, I mean, I had a little orchestra experience through the divan, which was very important in that time, and also a few youth orchestra experiences I had. For example, the Spanish National Youth Orchestra, or in the Andalusian Youth Orchestra I played since I was 12. So I had already some years of experience playing first, playing second oboe. The Divan Orchestra was, of course, a very, very important experience. I mean, being able to work with Barenboim when you are just 15, this was really, really amazing. So, it's not that I just came from my home and the oboe lessons to the orchestra, but of course I had to learn a lot and make my own reeds ready and learn all the repertoire. But when you are young, when you are this age, I think somehow you are a bit fearless, I guess. I don't know, because you don't know so much, so you are in a way naive, but you have a lot of confidence somehow. That was my case. So I think that was the receipt to survive it.
Can I ask what are some of the important things that you learned from Barenboim when you were a young person in his orchestra?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, the first tour marked me so much, and it was such a fun and such an intense experience that I remember coming back home after this first tour and thinking, I want to be a professional musician. His person and how he lives the music and all this intensity and amazing level. And also, I have to say, the fun of traveling, going on tour and visiting great cities. And when you are 15, it's really amazing experience. And I remember after that tour, I had very clear, okay, I want to go for it. I will try to become a professional musician, always. So then I learned a lot from him to think on the long lines of the music, which is so important also for the wind instruments, because we are limited by our breath. We are not like piano or string instruments. I think they are a bit less, they don't have this limitation of the breath. So for them, I guess it's a bit easier to think on longer lines. But I remember we were working on Schubert Unfinished, and I was playing first oboe in that piece, and Barenboim would take such a slow tempo on the second movement, and there is this oboe solo, and there is clarinet and oboe all the time solos, and I was thinking, how can I play such a long phrase in this tempo? But he would push us, me and the clarinet player, every time on the rehearsal, slower and slower. And by the concerts, it was so easy to just, think on the music and enjoy. But on the rehearsals, he was working on this and keep the sound and yes, don't rush, just keep the sound and play the whole phrase. And it was really, such an experience.
I would love to hear about your experience in premiering the Oboe Concerto Legacy by Oscar Navarro.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was also a very interesting project. It all came out because I heard on the internet, I don't know if Facebook or YouTube, his second clarinet concerto by the time it was premiered. And I remember I was so fascinated by this piece, like from the very beginning till the end of the piece, that I was, wow, this guy is so great, like what amazing music he writes. He's a mixture of movie music with classical or romantic music, so to say. And but he always has this touch of soundtrack music. So I thought after this that actually there is not such a piece on the oboe repertoire, or not that I knew. And I liked it so much that I remember just searching for his contact on Google and writing him to see if he would be interested at all on writing an oboe concerto and what were his conditions for doing it. And he wrote me back actually just a day later telling that he would love it and that those were his conditions. So we just had to find who would make it possible to premiere this piece. And I wrote with my agent which orchestra could do it, and we were asking several orchestras, and at the end we got an offer by this Norddeutsche Philharmonic in Herford, telling that they would be willing to do it, and that actually they would offer us a 6-concert tour around in Germany.
Wow.
With the piece. So I thought this was actually perfect, because for a new piece to be played at the beginning 6 times is already a great step. Also for myself as a performer, so it was giving us the perfect space to premiere it. Yes, then we were working a lot on Skype, because he's living in Madrid and I was living in Munich at that time. So he would send me, look, Ramón, I composed the 50 first parts. What do you think? Send me scores, and I would let him know my comments. But I didn't want to influence much on his inspiration or on his original idea. And most of what he sent actually was playable. Some passages a little bit more difficult than others, because he's a clarinet player. So I guess some things on the clarinet may be easier than for the oboe, other things the opposite. So, but I was very, very happy actually with all what he was sending me. And just for the end, I remember I asked him to make it a bit more exciting, more chromatic, the coda of the concerto, and then he would send me another version. And it was really, really, really fun. And he came to the premiere, and it was very, very amazing time.
You mentioned his music sounding a little bit like a movie score, and I thought that would be a fun transition to asking about your audition in LA.
Yes, it's perfect link, because actually he studied in LA for I think 2 or 3 years. So, but at this time actually I would never consider or even think that I could end up there, because it is somehow so separated, that we have the European oboe school and the American oboe school. So for us Europeans, it's kind of unthinkable to think you are going to play in an American orchestra. But well, that's maybe the destiny.
What attracted you to the LA Philharmonic, and what was your journey to audition there?
I didn't know there is a free place. It was on summer, I think July, that I got invitation by the orchestra committee on the name of Gustavo Dudamel and the principals of the orchestra. At first, I was written by the principal flute, Denis Buryakov, and then by the orchestra office. And yes, they asked me if I would consider the possibility of coming to the audition. And I was thinking about it for a while, and well, LA is such a great place that you don't have to think so much. So I spoke with my wife and said, she comes from Israel, and we are for 10 years living in Munich. And we come both from the south, and we have our difficulties with the Middle European winter, which is so long and so much colder than what we are used to, or what we were used to as children. So we thought, well, LA is an amazing place, and why not? I'm still 29, and we live only once, so I thought, why not to do something like this, something a little bit crazy. And I decided to go to the auditions, which took place in October. And yes, I was successful to get to the super finals, and then to be the only one invited to play a rehearsal with the orchestra, where I played orchestral excerpts for solo oboe, and also a lot of excerpts with 2 oboes, because this was one of the main concerns. How would it blend European sounding oboes with the American oboe section, which they have in LA. But it worked wonderfully, and I'm very happy that everyone believed on this, and yes, we will try it out from September.
Amazing.
Yes, really, it was, from one day to the next, your life really turns 180 degrees direction, and yes, it's really adventurous.
One question I have, you are very obviously active as an orchestral musician. You're very active in concerto engagements. You do a lot of chamber music. How do you approach your practice time so that it's as efficient as possible? And is there a mental shift in going between these two different roles, soloist and orchestral player, or is it very natural to you?
It took me some time to actually develop a method that would work for me, because especially with reeds, I'm playing marigo oboe, which I think is quite flexible on this sense. It allows you to play in the orchestra, but also for solo and chamber music. It's 901 from marigo model. Mm-hmm. It's very good, but for the reeds, we really have to change, or at least on my case, I remember I had solo piece, solo performance, and then making the reed for that concert the days before, and that was actually not a good way to approach it. And for now, I always try to work on the same way. I prepare my new reeds for the orchestra weeks. And then if they are good and I can play them at the orchestra for 1 or 2 weeks, those reeds then I would use for solo performance and later on for chamber music. The chamber music reeds for me, or recital reed, has to be the ones that are most played and that have the most pure vibration of all, because you need to play for 1.5, 2 hours. So you need a material that is already flexible and that you don't need to correct with the knife anymore, I find. And for the orchestra, it's actually the contrary. You need a big sound, you need to come out. So that's why for me, it works working the new reeds for the orchestra weeks.
I had never thought about that before, but that seems like a really efficient way to do it.
Yeah, really, and it saves me making tons of reeds, because I know that you could also change diameters, for example, or play more with the harder cane for orchestra, softer cane for solo or recital, but I find then you have to make many more reeds, because already to find one good reed, it takes you maybe 5 reeds to make, so... yes, I find that this method allow me to play everything without spending all my life making reeds. Which anyway, we have to make tons of them. As I say, normally if you find one good reed, you have made 3 or 4 not so good reeds. So I think that's a good way. And since I don't have too much orchestra work, because that's really a luxury in Munich or in the radio orchestras in Germany, we are 2 principals coordinated, so we really get to play the 50% of the workload, and yes, that gives me a very good balance.
What are the things that help you to achieve work-life balance? You said nobody wants to spend all their time making reeds. So how do you keep it all in balance for yourself?
Well, I find that practicing isn't work. I mean, it's like, I don't know, like if you brush your teeth or or make your food, it's something that I have to do. For example, if I have a few free days, so I play or practice for 1 hour just to keep in shape, because then you have to be in shape to play another concert in the orchestra or solo. So in this sense, I don't see the practicing, or when I also go for orchestra rehearsals or chamber music rehearsals, I don't really see it as work, by, in the sense that it's something I'm not willing to do, or that I'm putting myself to do something in order to earn money or make my living. I'm so glad that I'm able to live from the music, and I really enjoy most of the time. Of course, there are times, or, for example, traveling is for me very, very heavy. It's not something I love to do, but it's part of it. But about practicing or going to the rehearsals, I don't see it as such a lasting activity. So I take it very naturally, and of course, I take care not to take too much work, because that's important. Then is when you start losing the love or the passion for it, and when it becomes heavy. But if you manage to balance your schedule that it is not too heavy, then I think yes, I don't need special time off, or of course holidays are important every time. But yeah, I'm happy if I get in summer 3 weeks off. That's really wonderful, and then during the season, some 2 weeks. That's really enough.
One of my favorite questions to ask is, can you tell us about a favorite memory of a past performance?
There are many, actually. There is not one, I would say, but my Carnegie Hall debut, this was very, very special. I will remember it very, very long time, I think, because, all what it means, Carnegie Hall, and being invited by them to play a recital was very, very special. And I love New York, too, so I had a very good time before and after the concert. Then I also remember a Carnegie Hall Beethoven Ninth with Jansons on my first year at the orchestra.
Wow.
Yes, I remember his passion, and of course I knew already how delicate is his health and his heart in general. And I remember thinking during the concert, wow, this guy is giving everything 200%, and I know he's a bit delicate on the health. So this gave me so much motivation and strength and passion. And yes, many concerts with Barenboim too on the divan. My first recording with orchestra was too very special, with the Kammerakademie Potsdam recording Baroque repertoire, which is one of my favorite repertoires. We played Johann Sebastian Bach concerti and Telemann, and we played without conductor, so everyone was so involved. And the church we recorded on is beautiful in Berlin. It's this Jesus Christus church in Berlin. Sounds really marvelous there. I enjoyed it very much.
What advice do you have for people dealing with performance anxiety and maybe even imposter syndrome?
Well, I think the main advice for against anxiety is to think that this is very, very normal thing that I would say everyone in the performing world are dealing with. Some people are naturally more for the stage, they are less afraid than others. But on my case, I also got very, very nervous as a student, and I still get nervous before concerts. And one has to know that every day is a bit different. Sometimes you play with a very good orchestra or conductor in an important hall, and you are somehow quiet. Read works well, you have slept well, I don't know. It really depends on the day. And other days in a not so important place, you get nervous somehow. The experience is very important to deal with it. So when you are a student, you are not familiarized, or when you don't get to play so often in the orchestra or recital, so it's normal to be afraid and to be nervous. And in the end, we have to think that everyone coming to a concert should just enjoy it. It's just music, you know. Luckily, we don't get to kill or save anyone when we are working as doctors, or, you know, if you are a pilot, then you have really much more responsibility. If we play a wrong note, it's really not the end of the world. So this must be very clear, that a concert is a fun and enjoyment experience for everyone. That's the way it should be. And then, of course, the experience will really help. So whenever you can perform, if you have an audition or an important concert coming up, try to organize you maybe like 3-4 times playing for your friends or your family. This will really help you manage the situation. And the imposter syndrome, as far as I understand it, I don't know if I'm right, is when you don't really believe on yourself or on the value of yourself. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So, yes, I think that actually everyone has something special, and we should not compare us to any other performer. I think that's the way it should be, because this is art. This is not sports or science, where you really have to deal with results. I mean, this is art, and art is a very personal thing. What one person finds awful, another might find it beautiful. So everyone has something unique and special, and yes, one shouldn't really care too much about what is around or why others are me. You try to offer the best of you to the people, and already by doing that, it's enough, I find. If you do it in a honest way, then it's the way it should be.
That's beautiful.
Another one of my favorite questions is, what is your favorite repertoire to play? What are some of your go-to pieces that you look forward to? And this can be solo, orchestral, chamber. It's a big question, but we always love to ask this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of the hardest questions ever. But if I have to say one or two composers, I would say Johann Sebastian Bach and Mozart. Really, these are composers that I enjoy the most playing, and I have played a lot of Bach chamber music and concertos, and it's really impossible to choose one of the pieces, because each of them has really the most amazing moments. And the same for Mozart. I remember last year I played, there is an arrangement by David Walter of his G minor quintet for two violas. So he arranged it for oboe and string quartet, so with two violins, viola and cello. And it was so much fun playing this piece. The same for the Mozart concerto or quartet. It's such a fresh and flowing music that I could be playing this for the whole day, and I wouldn't be tired. It just keeps you on the flow and on the go, and it's really marvelous music.
What advice would you have for a young person who aspires to have a career like yours?
Hard question. Yes, I can maybe think of myself when I was this young age. Sometimes I was a bit anxious, or I don't know why, my education background, but I was sometimes really worried what would be with my life. And I think one shouldn't worry. You have to do with passion what you love, really find what you really love deeply, and then follow it and dedicate yourself to it, and the results will come. It's really not important.
So the International Double Reed Society Conference is in Granada this year, and so I'm curious what suggestions you have for people who've never been there before. What do they need to see or experience or eat? What should they go do?
Well, Granada is, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's because I come from there, but to me it's the most marvelous city in the world. Because, yes, it's such a place where you have art, like old and new. It's lively, it's young. It's very easy to live. You can go by foot anywhere or by bike. You are really quickly anywhere. The weather is really amazing. It will be in August, so take light clothing with you. And about the food, don't worry. I mean, there is everything there for amazing paella, or we have the gazpacho or salmorejo, which is very appropriate for the summer. It's this tomato soup, very refreshing and full of vitamins. There is great meat, or the Spanish tortilla, which I miss so much. So about the food, I wouldn't say there is nothing to worry. You will find great tapas bars. It's really easy because also in Granada it's one of those places in Spain where you just order a drink, like a beer or a Coke, and then you get automatically a little tapa, something to eat. So for dinner it's perfect because you go out, you drink a few beers or drinks, and then you have eaten. You don't need much more. So, and then visiting, of course, the Alhambra is really a world monument, and Generalife is like the summer palace, close to the Alhambra. And then just losing yourself in the center, walking on those little streets is amazing. The Albaicín, you have to go walk there. Most probably you will find people playing guitar on the street. And yeah, I think everyone will enjoy it. I would say to reserve a few days, either before or after the conference, to just enjoy the city.
So do you have anything special coming up that you would like to mention to our listeners that you're excited about?
Well, most excited I am about moving to LA. Of course, playing with this amazing orchestra in this hall, which is so great. From what I could play there, I really was wishing to play more. And then starting my own class at Colburn, this will be really, really exciting because I have teach master class, some lessons privately, but I think having your own class and working regularly with someone, it's something that can be a lot of fun. And I look very most forward to this. Otherwise, I have still until the summer a lot of solo concerts. And at the moment, I'm in Bremerhaven. It's like near Bremen in Germany, a beautiful little town. And I'm playing 3 times a Strauss concerto. And then in March next month, I will be playing Bach concerti in Netherlands. In April, I will be in Spain, playing solo, so a lot of fun. At the orchestra, we have also a New York tour with Jansons, playing Eroica. And yes, in June, I remember it's coming Giovanni Antonini, this great Italian conductor for the Baroque repertoire, and he will be doing Bach cantatas. So I look forward to playing this. And then having a holiday in the summer and taking energy for moving to LA.
Well, Ramón Ortega Quero, thank you so much for joining us on Double Reed Dish. We always like to close on asking where our listeners can find you on the internet.
Well, thank you. It's really a pleasure talking to you. And on the internet, you can find my website. It's ramonortegaquero.com. Otherwise, check the Bayerische Rundfunk website, where there are also a lot of recordings of our live concerts, or on Spotify. There are many of my CDs there. Yes, I think that's enough.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, really. That was fun.
We hope you loved that wonderful interview with Ramón Ortega, and we hope you'll follow us /subscribe on all of our social media, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
And don't forget to join us on our next episode when we welcome Amy Pollard from the University of Georgia for a chat.